Hello and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sport. For today's preview, France versus Scotland. The Summer Nations series really getting underway this weekend. All six nation sides are in action against each other, and quite a lot of diversity between the various teams in terms of the types of teams we're going to see this weekend. Some teams are going more or less full strength. Some teams are going very rotated. Some teams are going very second string, for example. And a lot of debuts floating around in the various teams, which is interesting because the World Cup starts in about a month, almost to the day. And yet there are still sort of a lot of players getting debuts and potential sort of wild card players who could be going to the World Cup. So quite an interesting sort of dynamic when you're watching these games thinking, is there a wild card player somewhere around here? Is there going to be a player who's potentially uncapped, not having played international rugby, who might sort of be announcing themselves in the World Cup? And for this French side, two 20-year-olds actually being included this weekend. Before we look at the two teams, please do smash the like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. We'll start with the French side, which has got no players from Toulouse, no players from La Rochelle. So, also your main players. So a lot of players missing. No Dupont, no Intermac, no Aldred, no Gail Fiku, for example. Missing most of the players. Also, a lot of the your stars. No Thomas Ramos, for example. Lots of players I can actually name. But anyway, let's look at it. So big news for them is Jean-Baptiste Gros is back from injury. He missed the Six Nations. He is back and will slot down there in Loosehead. He's got Pierre Bogerie next to him and Demba Bamba at tight head. So it's a pretty solid front row. In the second row, you've got Cameron Waukee and Bastien Chaleroux. So it's a nice tight five. I think it's a pretty solid tight five, which should give that Scottish tight five a really good go. I think that Scottish tight five is definitely improving. I think Pierre Schoeman's becoming a really solid player as well, for example. But I think this should be quite a nice scrum battle. The first sort of big debutant is Paul Bodenet in the back row. He's going to partner Sekou Makalu, who's a very exciting player. Very keen to see what he can do. I sort of really got my first sort of taste of an international rugby when I watched him against the Box last year. He was very impressive. And then Johan Tanga is in the number 8 jersey. Very exciting. It's an interesting loose chair. It's not the most experienced loose chair, but a lot of good players in there. As I said, I think Makalu is going to be quite a bit of a wild card for me type of player. Based on what I've seen from him, he had some brilliant games from when I've watched him. So very keen to see what he does there. So it's a decent pack, but it's a very rotated pack, very second string in many ways. Baptiste Kalulu gets an opportunity at scrum half. He will partner Matsui Jalabe, who's kind of fallen a bit out of favour. It is a bit difficult to try and displace Romain Intermac in that side. So he'll get an opportunity to sort of show that he is a very capable deputy to Romain Intermac. If you look at the two wings there, Ethan Demeter, we did see quite a bit of him in the Six Nations. But the first of the 20-year-old debuts in Louis Bilberry, he is starting in the 14 jersey. The second 20-year-old debutant is Emile Gelaton there in the 13. And what an opportunity for two 20-year-olds to get the opportunity to get their chance to play for the senior side. They actually missed. I mean, how's this for the French depth? France steamrolled their way to the under-20 championship. Both of these players were eligible to play, but didn't because they got called up to the senior squad. That is where French rugby is right now. Yoram Muafana in the inside centre there, very nice player as well. And then Bryce Dulan will captain the side. He's kind of been a bit of a outcast for the French side. He hasn't played since they lost last year. I think it was to Ireland. In fact, 2021, I think it was when he actually last played. So it's been a bit of an outcast as Bryce Dulan, but he's back in the squad and he'll captain this weekend. And his experience, I think, will be pretty important, especially with a lot of youngsters and inexperienced players in and around him. Off the bench, Petru Mavaka. Reddy Wadi and Spili Falatia. So it's a nice experience to come off the bench. We see quite a lot of them in the Six Nations. Paul Willems as well, making his return from injury. Dylan Cretin. So they've got some nice options off the bench, a bit more experience if they need to bring it on. Then they've got the likes of Baptiste Serene, Antoine Hastor, and Arthur Vincent. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good bench. If things are going badly, they can sort of switch things up and bring some nice players into the mix. We then look at the Scotland side. First of all, Finn Russell captaining, which is very interesting. All the talk always about the relationship between Finn Russell and Townsend and whether it's a good one, it's not a good one. And the fact that he's captain, I think, means obviously that things have been mended, and he's going to play a big role in the World Cup. I do think that the Scotland side can very much cause an upset or two. I think they're number 5 in the world for a reason. and maybe they're starting to bring the consistency that warrants them being taken a bit more seriously, because they've always had the results in them. For example, they've beaten England quite a few times in the last few years, winning that Kolkata Cup, but can sometimes struggle to sort of really pitch up when it counts. But if you look at the side, Pierre Schoeman, Xander Ferguson, two very solid scrummages. Pierre Schoeman very good in the loose as well, and Ewan Ashwin in the middle there. So it's not a bad front row. It's always, Richie Gray, Grant Gilchrist, one of the most solid lock pairings in the world rugby. They could just continue to play together all the time. Grant Gilchrist for me is very underrated. Matt Ferguson, Hamish Watson, Jack Dempsey's a nice loose shirt. Big Matt Ferguson fan. We all know what Hamish Watson can do. Then you've got Ben White partnering Finn Russell, so an exciting scrum off or halfback pairing. And it's a very, very good backline. Dura van Merwe, Darcy Graham, two lethal finishers. Hugh Pilato, the combination of Sierra Tupolato and Hugh Jones. Tupolato actually the vice captain as well, so shows you how much of a senior player he's become in the squad. Blair King at full back. It's probably their best backline. No Stuart Hogg, for example, having retired. Then off the bench, Dave Cherry, Jamie Batty, Via Nell, Scott Cummings, Rory Darge, George Horn, Cameron Redpath, Ollie Smith. It doesn't get much stronger than this, the Scottish side. There are a couple of players who can come in, but generally this is pretty strong. And I think it's got everything they need to beat this French side if they can click. So, yeah, let me know what your score predictions are down in the comments below. Smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And then thank you very much for watching. We will be live for this game over the weekend, so come and hang out with us. And I will chat to you guys next time.